Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. So we're getting started, preparing for Purim. It's always our favorite time of the year, especially for the Shiurim. And the Shiurim on Sefer Shemais are again dedicated by the Zakai Mishpachte, Lili Nishmas, Rav Shlomo Eliezer ben Rabbi Yaakov Zakkai, Rivka Bas Tovia Levi, Rav David ben Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi HaKohen. The Shiurim of Chodesh Shvat have been dedicated by the Israeli family of Greyneck. Le'iloi Nishmas Meir ben David Ziyartzad was Ches Shvat, Yeshua ben Yechezkel Chav Tes Shvat. Tonight's shir is sponsored by Rabbi Meir and Mrs. Fuchs. Le'iloi Nishmas Rabbi Meir's mother, Chana Bas Meir Yitzchak. Her neshama Shav and Aliyah should be a Melitza Yeshara for our family. Ad Bias Goyal Tzedek. The Fuchs family were the patrons of the first Sefer Maggid Harakiah on Purim and the Maggid Harakiah series. Okay, tonight's shir is also dedicated by Reb Aryeh Yankelevich, Leiloi Nishmas, Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas. V'gan Eden Tehei Menuchasam. They should be Melitza Yesharim for all of Klal Yisrael. Tonight's shir is dedicated by our good friends Michelle and Aryeh Jacobson. Leiloi Nishmas, Aryeh Zayda, Hillel ben Chaim Aron, whose 29th yahrzeit. Rabbi Aryeh's great-great-grandfather, Rabbi Aryeh Leib ben Rabbi Yaakov Zal, 118th yahrzeit. So I assume you're named after him. And Menucha Chaya Bas Rav Amichai Zechron Levracha, the Neshama Shav Naliyah B'gan Eden Tehei Menuchasam. Okay, here we go. We're going to learn new information tonight about Purim, even though we've been discussing it for many years. And this was something of a great revelation to me, something very interesting. We know that this week is also Parsha Shekalim. The Gemara Masechta Megillah says that Amar Reish Lakish taught, Galoi v'yadua lefnei mi shamar b'haya olam. It's revealed and known before he who spoke and the world came to be, that Haman was destined to mete out Shekalim to destroy the Jewish people. Haman paid a lot of money to destroy Klal Yisrael. Haman paid a lot of money to be able to destroy Klal Yisrael. Lefikach hiktim shekleihen l'shkalav. Therefore, we preempt our Shekalim to his Shekalim. Haman meted out Shekalim to kill us on Yud Gimel Adar. And we already start declaring the Shekalim, calling out for the Shekalim, be'echad ba'adar. V'hainu d'tnan, be'echad ba'adar mashmiyan ala Shekalim. On the first of Adar, we call out for Shekalim. So, there's an idea that the Jewish calendar is a living calendar. And the fact that Haman paid money to destroy Klal Yisrael, that creates a certain accusation against Klal Yisrael annually on the 13th of Adar. So we need to preempt that. So every year on the 1st of Adar, we preempt Haman Shekalim by giving our own Shekalim, by calling out our own Shekalim, by reading the Parsha of Parsha Shekalim. This week we're going to take out a lot of Sifrei Torah. We're taking them all out of the Aron this week. Why? We have to preempt Haman. But the question is, how exactly, by us giving our Machzas HaShekel, how does that counteract and preempt the accusation of Haman? In what way does our Machzas HaShekel overcome the kitrug of Haman? Okay, Haman paid money to destroy us, but when we pay money, somehow that protects us, that preempts him. How exactly does that preempt Haman? I'm going to tell you now the biggest question on the Megillah. And the reason why we never asked this question, because we never had a good answer. You never ask a question that you can't answer. And you never take a question you can't answer. This is the question on the Megillah. About 14 years ago we said an approach, before you were born even, okay? Before we even came to this neighborhood. And this approach comes from the Aptarav in the name of Rav Shri Ragain. It's before your time. Okay, that's the first approach we said 14 years ago. However, it's a very interesting approach, and the approach we're going to learn tonight is might be the best pshat al pi pshat. So finally, Esther revealed herself to Achashverosh. Esther says, "I'm a Jew," and she says, "Ki nimkarnu ani v'ami I and my people have been sold. Lehashmid, laharoig uliabed. To be destroyed, to be murdered, to be wasted. Ve'ilu. And if if we would have been sold as slaves and maidservants, hecharashti, then I would have been silent. If Haman only wanted us to be slaves, okay, I would have kept my mouth closed. Because the pain wouldn't cause you a loss. So Esther says, if all Haman wanted to do was buy us as slaves and sell us as slaves, I wouldn't be here begging for anything. But because he wants to kill us, so that's why I'm begging for our life. Did you ever realize that that's an absurd thing to say? I don't understand. The Jewish people's lives were in danger. So that's like her saying, if Haman only wanted to chop off our arms, then everything would have been fine and good. No, I asked her, nobody asked you to say that. Why are you offering a bad alternative? Just say, don't kill us. Why is it necessary for her to add, if he only wanted to sell us as slaves, everything would have been okay. Okay, that's great, If he only wanted to harm us terribly, then all would be good. But now that he wants to kill us, that's why I'm begging. Who asked Esther to concede to this point that, it would have been okay if we would have been sold as slaves? Who asked her? Why does she need to say that? Why is she offering that? You ever wonder about that? You probably got caught up on the word ve'ilu because you heard every Baal Koreh say ve'ilu, and they're wrong. And you might, there is no word ve'ilu, it's ve'ilu, yeah? That's why you have a second Tlisha Gedola on the, but I know you're hooked up on that. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about why she offered this in the first place, yeah? She offered this, why is she conceding? Okay. So now we're going to learn something that is virtually unknown about the Purim story. If you ask most people, okay, Haman made this decree to annihilate the Jewish people, so obviously there must have been some terrible sin that Klal Yisrael committed that were deserving of this terrible gezerah. So what was it? Anybody know? What were the averos that Klal Yisrael did?
Participated in the parties.
Oh, so either they went to the Suda Achashverosh, or they bowed down to the Tselem. The Gemara in Megillah records a conversation between the Rashbi and his Talmidim. The Talmidim of the Rashbi asked, why did the Jewish people in that generation, why were they worthy of being annihilated? So the Rashbi, like a good Rebbe, said, yeah, good question. What do you think? So they said, because they were nene from the Suda of Achashverosh. So the Rashbi said that can't be, because then only the Jews in Shushan should be annihilated. The Jews the rest of the world should not be annihilated. So they said to him, Rebbe, you tell us. So the Rashbi says, because they bowed down to the Avodah Zarah in the time of Nebuchadnezzar. So the Talmidim said, how could that be? If that's the case, then why did God save them? Why did God show them favoritism? They served Avodah Zarah, they should have been annihilated. So the Rashbi said they didn't really mean to serve idols, they only did it outwardly. So too Hashem only outwardly made a decree, but he didn't really mean it. Okay, so the Gemara records two averos that Klal Yisrael were guilty of in the times of Purim, that because of these two sins, we understand why this decree came about. Either because we went to the Suda of Achashverosh, or because we bowed down to the Tselem in the time of the Nebuchadnezzar.
Why do we have to say it's because of our sins?
Yeah, but...
So that's why he's trying to get rid of us.
Yeah, but nothing happens unless we sin. So if we don't sin, nothing bad would happen to us.
So that means nothing?
It means something. The reason why they stand up against us in every generation is because of our sins. But you can't just say bad things happen to the Jewish people and throw up your hands and say, well, we don't know why, it's a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. It happens because of our sin. So everyone's familiar with this Gemara. Everybody knows the Averos in the times of Purim, they were nene from the Suda, or they bow down to the Tselem. However, there is a third sin that the Gemara does not identify that is a major cause of Gezeras Haman, and this is virtually unknown. Let's start with the Sefer Zecher David. Say, what in the world is the Sefer Zecher David? We quoted it before. Anybody know how many times in all the Shiurim did we ever quote the Sefer Zecher David? One other time. On Tu B'Shvat. Zecher David is Rav David of Modina. And the Zecher David says that if you look through Chazal, there are 3 Averos that are responsible for Gezeras Haman. Number 1, they bow down to the Tzelem in the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Number 3, they're an Nenef from the Suda of Achashverosh. Number 2, Mechiras Yosef. Number 2, Mechiras Yosef. You never heard that before. You needed Rav David of Modina to uncover that, huh? So you say, well, if he's the only one, like, is that the only source that the reason for Gezeras Haman is Mechiras Yosef? No, the Medrash is replete with references that the cause of the decree of Haman was Mechiras Yosef. In fact, on the pasuk,
what about that Surugi Malchus? Wasn't that because of Gezeras Haman?
That could also be. If I give a shir on Sarugi Malchus, I'll also talk about Mechiras Yosef. But now we're talking about Gezeras Haman. What caused Gezeras Haman? Mechiras Yosef. Look in Esther Rabbah, look at number 5. V'hamelech v'haman yashvu l'shta'is. The king and Haman, they sat down to drink. When did they make the decree? When they were drinking. Why when they were drinking? Says the Medrash, anyone who says that God overlooks sin, God will overlook their life. God does not overlook even one sin. He delays punishment and he ultimately collects. God says to the Shvatim, you sold Yosef by eating and drinking. You were eating and drinking when you sold him. I'm going to get you back through eating and drinking. What happened? The Jews went out to the market to buy a shtik, a little basar, a little vegetables. A Persian came and choked the Jew. He says, tomorrow I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take all your money. That's what it means. Va'ir Shushan Navoicha. Now the Medrash makes a kavachomer. The kavachomer is, but Yosef was Moichel the brothers. If somebody is Moichel somebody, and yet the punishment looms for thousands of years, imagine if you hurt someone and they're not Moichel you. That's the Medrash Rabbah. The Yalkut Shimoni brings the same thing in the Tehillim. The Yalkut Shimoni on Esther says the same thing, that the reason for the Gezerah of Haman was Mechiras Yosef. Now, there are a couple of important questions over here. Mechiras Yosef. That happened a long time ago. Why didn't Hashem punish, I don't know, the Dar HaMidbar because of Mechiras Yosef? Why didn't he punish Klal Yisrael in the times of the Bayis Rishon because of Mechiras Yosef? What all of a sudden happened in Shushan that the Rebbe Shem said, oh, you guys, I'm gonna let Haman annihilate Klal Yisrael because of Mechiras Yosef. What happened, 1,000 years later? Think about it. You know the timeline? Anybody know something, like basic Chumash? How many years were the Jewish people in Egypt? What?
210 years.
210. Well, from the time that Yosef went down, around 210. Around 210. Let me just, if we could plug that in. Around 210. A little bit more. Yeah. And then, how many years were in the Midbar?
40 years.
Wow, what a knowledgeable crowd. Okay. And then, how many years were we in Eretz Yisrael? This is the tough one, okay? How many years were we in Eretz Yisrael before the first Beis HaMikdash was built?
70. No, 206.
Cut your losses. No. How long were we in Eretz Yisrael before the first Beis HaMikdash was built?
Give me a hint.
440.
Really?
Yeah. 440 years. How long did the first Beis HaMikdash stand for? 410.
410.
Okay, so we'll review that another time. Okay, so that means over 1,000 years passed from the time of Mechiras Yosef until over 1,000 years passed from the time of Mechiras. No, not working. Nope.
The story of Purim.
To the story of Purim. What happened that all of a sudden no. I don't think it's the outlet. It's the outlet.
It's working.
We'll slide it. Over 1,000 years passed. Thank you. Whoa.
Put it underneath the table.
Okay. Just bear with us.
More technical difficulty.
Whoa, no. Move that table. Yeah. You just stay there. Okay. Okay, more than 1,000 years passed from the time of Mechiras Yosef. What happened all of a sudden now that the Ransham drummed up the Avera of Mechiras Yosef in the times of Purim? In fact, the Al-Shech HaKadosh, in his Perush on Esther, called Maseis Moshe, he also brings, there are 3 Averos that were the causes of the Gzeira of Haman. He brings the Renener from the Sud of Achashverosh. He brings that they bowed down to the Tselem in the time of Nebuchadnezzar. And then he says, regarding the Avera of Mechiras Yosef, that the Medrash talks about, it's very difficult to say that it was because of Mechiras Yosef. After all, then why that generation? It could have been visited upon them in any generation. Why Dafka then? Okay. The Chida, in the Midbar Kedemais, and in many of his Svarim, seems to maintain that even though the Gemara says it's because they were Nenner from the Sud of Achashverosh, and they were bowed down to the Tselem, the main cause was Mechiras Yosef. And this is something the Chida brings up throughout many of his Svarim, in Midbar Kedemais, in Kisei David, in Avas David. And he says that according to the opinion of the Medrash that we learned, that the reason for the Gzeira of Haman was because of Mechiras Yosef, we understand why the Geula of Klal Yisrael in the times of Purim had to come through Mordechai and Esther. Mordechai and Esther were from Shevet Binyamin, and Binyamin was the only tribe that was not involved in Mechiras Yosef. So since the whole Gezeira of Haman came about because of Mechiras Yosef, the only way the Rebbeinu Shalom would save Klal Yisrael was through Mordechai and Esther from Shevet Binyamin, who were loichata b'Mechiras Yosef. So you say, what do you mean? There could have been a much better Eitzah. Hashem could have had somebody from Shevet Yosef save Klal Yisrael. You have to know the history. It couldn't have been someone from Shevet Yosef, because the Aseres Hashvatim had already been exiled more than 100 years earlier. Shevet Yosef was lost. There was nobody left from Shevet Yosef. Shevet Yosef had been sent, the Navi Yirmi says, to Chalach and Chavar, and we don't know if they're ever coming back. So, a lack of any better alternative of somebody who did not participate in Mechiras Yosef, who was still around with Klal Yisrael, Rebbeinu Shalom had to rely on Mordechai and Esther. Now, we know that if you look through the Midrashim on Megillas Esther, Eliyahu Hanavi, who knew about the Gzeira of Haman, he went running to Moshe Rabbeinu. And you know what the Medrash says about Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm going to daven upstairs in Shamayim, I'm going to bang down the gateways of Tefillah, and Mordechai downstairs is going to daven corresponding to me. Why did Eliyahu Dafka wake up Moshe Rabbeinu? Not Avraham, not Yitzchak, not Yaakov. Why Dafka Moshe Rabbeinu? Says the Chida something very interesting. He brings from the great Mekubal of Rav Nosson Shapira. He says that Kabbalistically, Moshe and Yosef are connected. There's an idea that Moshe and Yosef are united. Moshe and Yosef have a similar entity. This is alluded to in the pasuk. Vayikach Moshe es atzmois Yosef imai. That Moshe Rabbeinu took upon himself the entire liability for the sin of Mechiras Yosef. Because of Moshe's close connection to Yosef, and the whole decree of Haman was reawakening the sin of Mechiras Yosef, so therefore Eliyahu Dafka went to wake up Moshe Rabbeinu and Shemayim to daven for Klal Yisrael, because Moshe is the closest in reality to the entity of Yosef HaTzadik. He says, if you look in the Chida in the Midbar Kedemais, he says, "V'hachi nicha shehageula al yidei Mordechai ve'Esther shem Mishev Binyamin sheleichata b'mechiras Yosef gam haya b'tfilas Moshe Rabbeinu." Like the Medrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu was bechinas Yosef. So this explains a number of the key components of the story. In fact, when Klal Yisrael was saved, the pasuk says, "V'chamas hamelech shachacha." Shachacha. What is the numerical value of shachacha? Shin.
300.
Good. Chaf.
20.
Chaf.
Oh, 2 chafs. I thought it's a ches. Oh, that's 340.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey, what?
345.
Excellent. 345. Who else is 345? Which big rabbi is 345? Na. Moshe Rabbeinu. V'chamas hamelech shachacha. 345. Why? Because in the zchus of Moshe, who is the very entity of Yosef HaTzadik, through his tefillah, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to overcome this gezerah by being misakein, the sin of Mechiras Yosef. Now, typically, we don't usually think of the sin of Mechiras Yosef in connection to the story of Purim. Nobody ever heard that before. You never heard that Mechiras Yosef has anything at all to do with Purim. You heard it here first. According to the Chida, the main cause of the gezerah of Haman is Mechiras Yosef.
You always have Mechiras Yosef as the play on Purim.
What?
You always have the Mechiras Yosef play on Purim.
The Mechiras Yosef play on Purim. Where do they have these plays?
Bubba, Hungary, everywhere.
In Bubov and Hungary? Well, I am hungry because I didn't eat anything yet tonight. And Bubov, maybe they have one there also. Could be. That's why in Bubov, your brother wants to say that's why in Bubov they have a play of Mechiras Yosef on Purim.
It's always like that, all over.
Rafi, you think that, anything you could do work out this year? Mechiras Yosef? No? Okay. So I want to share with you, raise your hand if you consider yourself a Bal Koreh. A shtickle Bal Koreh. Okay, I'm going to share with you something. This is something I had up my sleeve for 15 years. And we had different ways of spinning it. Tonight we're going to spin it a new way. Okay? We always pointed out that there's a very interesting parsha. We always read this parsha Chanukah time, which I maintain is a parallel almost precisely to Megillas Esther. And that is Parshas Miketz. How does Megillas Esther begin? Vayehi. How does Miketz begin? Vayehi Miketz. Okay. Miketz begins in what year? Miketz, Shnasayim Yamim, at the end of 2 years, meaning the beginning of the 3rd year. How does the Megillah start? Vayehi Bishnas Shalosh L'Malchai, 3rd year. Both 3rd year. Fine, interesting. Both 3rd year. In Miketz, you have 3 expressions that are found nowhere else other than Megillas Esther. In Megillah you have V'yafkeid hamelech pekidim, and in Miketz you have V'yafkeid pekidim al haaretz. The Baal HaTurim says. Here's another one. Achashverosh v'yikbitzu es kol na'ara v'sula. How about Yosef? V'yikbitzu es kol oichel. Very interesting. What about another similarity? Vayisapak Haman. The only other time the word Vayisapak appears is Parshas Miketz. How about this? Vayitav hadavar b'nei hamelech, vayitav hadavar b'nei paroi, Chasher avaditi, avaditi. What does Yaakov say? V'chasher shachalti, shachalti. What about the Medrash that says the rise, the challenges, and the greatness of Yosef and Esther are and Mordechai are similar? Vayihi kedabra el Yosef yom yom. Vayihi ke'amra ve'lam yom v'yom. What about Vayasar Pareas Tabatoi, Vayasar Melches Tabatoi, Vayiteno Sal Yad Yosef, Vayitna LaMordechai, Vayal Beishoisoi Bigdei Sheish, V'nasan Halavash V'asus. There are many uncanny connections between Parshas Miketz and Megillas Esther. Why? Oh, we've offered many interpretations over the years. The first thing is you need to notice it. The similarities are uncanny. The similarities between Parshas Miketz, the story of Yosef, and the story of Mordechai and Esther, the similarities are uncanny. The Baal HaTurim points out there are expressions that appear only in these two places. Why are Chazal drawing our attention to notice the similarity between the story of Yosef's descent to Mitzrayim and the story of Purim? But now we have it. The Chida says the primary cause of Gezeras Haman is Mechiras Yosef. It took a long time to crack this one. Now all the other pshatim we said are also good, but this is very compelling. If you want to know why all of these phrases and expressions are found nowhere else but Parshas Miketz and Megillas Esther, the cause of Gezeras Haman is none other than Mechiras Yosef. Now, we have to deal with the question of the Alshech. Also, one of the Kadmonim, the Zera Berech, asks, okay, that's very nice, it was caused by Mechiras Yosef, but why Dafka in that generation was that sin drummed up? Okay? Now, there's a sefer I found called Zera Berech, which is printed in a collection of like ancient manuscripts that were discovered and republished. I saw part of it quoted in the Sefer Shiras Nasan of Rav Asher David May. And he also asked this question: why was Mechiras Yosef drummed up dafka in that generation? So the Zera Berech says that what was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? Yosef, we know, tattled on his brothers. What did Yosef say about his brothers? Anybody know? Very good. You're on a roll tonight. You must have had a lot of Hamantashen before you came. What did you have for supper tonight?
A lot of wine.
Yeah, you drank a lot tonight? Really? A lot? What did you drink?
The name of the wine?
Yeah.
It's a weird name.
You drove here after that?
Of course.
What did you drink?
It's a semi-sweet.
Semi-sweet? Wow, you know, semi-sweet is about 30% pure liquid sugar. Yeah, it's good though, right? You think that's why you have such good answers tonight? Okay, so, but what was the name of the wine?
It's like a Russian. It's from Georgia. So I don't know what they
Georgia?
Georgia.
You needed it.
Georgia, United States.
You went there. You got a visa to pick it up.
No, Rockaway Turnpike they sell. And it's pretty cheap too.
Really?
It's delicious.
Really? Okay. You know the Gemara says that you drink wine opens up your mind, makes you smart. I think you got the edge. You know. So, well. So the question is very good. The what Yosef said about the brothers is they ate Ever Menachai. What else did he say they did? Gilui Arayos. So the Zera Berech says, what do you think was going on at the party? You think the meat at the party was geshachten meat? They put out meat at the table. What do they call the meat? It's like red. It's like they open up the package and they put it on your plate. You know, you wait 2 hours, you know, and who knows what they're doing in the kitchen. They come, they put on your plate a red slab of meat. What do they call it?
Rare.
What?
Rare.
No, it has, no, that's only $50, but $100 is what?
Blue.
What?
Black and blue.
No. Tartare? No. What is it called? Really,
Beef tartare. No.
I don't know. What?
Carpaccio is raw.
Carpaccio, yeah, carpaccio. It's straight up out of the package. They open up the thing and they slab it down on your plate. You wait longer, and and nobody ever even thought about cooking it, you know? Anyway, so it was Ever Menachai. That's what it is, carpaccio, Ever Menachai. Well, that's what they served at the meal, Ever Menachai. What else? There was bad stuff going on over there. Gili Arayos. So basically the Suda of Achashverosh opened up a can of worms. It reinvigorated the sin of Mechiras Yosef. All of those chatoim that Yosef said the brothers did were, maybe the brothers had an excuse because Chazal say that it wasn't really Ever Menachai, the animal was shechted, it was just mefarcheses, or it wasn't really Gilei Arayos, these were noshim that they created with the Sefer HaYetzirah. Okay, they had maybe their own excuses. But at the Suda of Achashverosh, it was full-fledged, legitimate Ever Menachai, Gilei Arayos, and therefore this sin was reawakened. However, I happen to see that the Shvilei Pinchas, in his Mamorim on Chanukah, I mamish accidentally stumbled across this because I never saw it before. In his Mamorim on Chanukah from 14 years ago, he's bothered based on he quotes one of these chidas and he's bothered, what does Mechiras Yosef have to do with the generation of Purim? And he says something very beautiful, and I think this is the compelling answer to this question. It's based on the chida's commentary to the Sefer Chasidim. You know, in yeshiva they taught us Yosef never forgave his brothers, right? And they would say, Rabbi Bachai says, always make sure you get a verbal mechila, because if the guy doesn't say amoichel you, you know, you're going to be up the creek without a paddle. Because Yosef, when the brother said, forgive me, Yosef said, he shook his head, he shuckled, but he stopped short of saying amoichel you. And therefore he was never meichel them. However, Sefer Chasidim and the Midrashim we saw before, Yosef was meichel the brothers. So the question then is, so why in every generation are we still dealing with Mechiras Yosef? And the Shvilei Pinchas says something very powerful. That it's true, Yosef forgave the brothers. But if you hurt me, and I forgive you, and then you do it again, so then what good is the mechila? You're still at it. So Yosef forgave the brothers. The problem is that in a generation that repeats the sin of Mechiras Yosef, what was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? Sinas ha'achim, sinas chinam. Whenever that sin is prevalent, it, so to speak, restirs and reawakens the sin of Mechiras Yosef. We know that one of the two averos that exist in every generation is the Ched HaEgel and Mechiras Yosef. And whenever Klal Yisrael is lax and weak in Avas Yisrael, so the sin of Mechiras Yosef is awakened. Comes Haman to the scene, and Haman says, Yeshnai am echad mefuzar u'mefayrad. This nation that is supposed to be one, they're mefuzar u'mefayrad. They're disparate. They can't get along. They're fragmented. They have no unity. Haman, pointing out the flaw of the lack of unity of Klal Yisrael, it wasn't just that Haman said, they can't get along. What he was doing was, by saying that we can't get along, he's stirring up the sin of Mechiras Yosef. The reason why the sin of Mechiras Yosef was stirred up in that generation is, who do you think stirred it? Haman stirred it. Haman aroused the sin of Mechiras Yosef. By the way, just like sort of as an aside, why didn't the Gemara discuss the possibility that the reason for Gzeras Haman was Mechiras Yosef? The Gemara said they were neneh from the Suda of Achashverosh, or they bowed down to the Tselem. You see, I would have said that when we were neneh from the Suda of Achashverosh, that awakened the sin of Mechiras Yosef. Because if you look in the Medrash says the sin of Mechiras Yosef is we sold him over food. We sold him by eating. So when we were neneh by the Suda of Achashverosh, that's what activated the sin of Mechiras Yosef. By eating inappropriately, that, so to speak, reinvigorated the sin of Mechiras Yosef. But the Shvilei Pinchas is saying that the reason why this Avera was specifically stoked up and stirred up in the generation of Purim is because in that generation, when Haman, so to speak, highlighted this flaw that Klal Yisrael has, that we're Yeshnai Am Echad Mefuzar Mefayrad, basically what he's doing is, they sold their brother, And adayin chet zeh meraked banu, that sin is still prevalent among us. Now, you ready for this? We're almost up to the whopper. Everybody knows the Medrash, that when they told Moshe Rabbeinu about the sin of Mechiras Yosef, and when they told Mordechai about the sin of Mechiras Yosef, he asked one question. Who knows? What did Moshe ask Eliyahu? What did Moshe ask Eliyahu? Is it betit or bedam? Remember that? Betit or bedam? By the way, you know, one Purim, somebody once came to the house of Reb Chaim Volozhiner, and he asked Reb Chaim Volozhiner for a coin, and Reb Chaim Volozhiner gave him. So he asked Reb Chaim Volozhiner for another coin. He's like, look, I already gave you, kol ha-poshed yad, but not twice. He said, I'll tell you Dvar Torah, nobody ever told you. If you give me another coin. He said, okay. So he says, Reb Chaim, how do Chazal, and what was the answer? Was it betit or was it bedam? And Chazal say that Eliyahu told Moshe, don't worry, it wasn't bedam, it was betit. So the old man asked Reb Chaim Volozhiner, how do Chazal know that this conversation took place? That Moshe asked Eliyahu, was it betit, was it bedam? And Eliyahu responded, no, it was betit. So the old man says very pashut. It says, Yikasev le'abedam. Le'abedam could be broken up. Loi bedam. Loi bedam. Yikasev le'abedam. Loi bedam. Reb Chaim Volozhiner said, okay, here's another coin. And then Reb Chaim Volozhiner realized that old man was none other than Eliyahu HaNavi himself, who was Megala to him, the Makar for Chazal, of how they knew about this conversation. Says the Zara Berech, what is this debate? Was it written in tit? Was it written in dam? He says something amazing. For over 1,000 years, Klal Yisrael had a question about Mechiras Yosef. Are they going to be responsible just for distressing Yosef by throwing him into a pit? A tit of like cement, of tit? Or are they going to be liable for his death? Because after all, they could have killed him. They never knew, is God going to treat this like, a small crime or like a capital crime? For over 1,000 years, Klal Yisrael didn't know, are we dealing with betit? Are we dealing with bedam? This was a question that haunted the Jewish people for over 1,000 years. Moshe Rabbeinu himself asked Eliyahu, is Mechiras Yosef betit? Are they liable just for throwing him in a pit? Or are they liable like they killed him? Because if you sell someone to captivity, it's like killing them. If someone is in captivity, I don't care if they're rescued after 2 days, certainly not after 500 days, certainly not after 22 years. You sell someone into captivity, you kill them. However they come back, they're like a walking cadaver. And Eliyahu said, no, don't worry, it's only betit. By the way, the Zara Berech says, this was the very debate between Ruvain and the brothers. The brothers said, oy vey, oy avol hashemim anachnu, asher ra'inu tsaras nafshay. We're guilty for distressing Yosef. Remember what Ruvain said? Ruvain said, you got it wrong. Halo yamarti lachem al techtu v'yeled v'gam damoy hinei nidrash. God is not seeking out his distress. God is going to revenge his blood. Gam damoy. So Esther tells Achashverosh, we have the inside scoop. Moshe heard from Eliyahu himself, it's only betit, that we are not liable for death from Mechiras Yosef. What are we liable for? Tit. Meaning we're liable for selling him as a slave, not for taking his life. Says the Zara Berech, this is the meaning of the pasuk. Esther says to Achashverosh, we know the real reason for this. We know the reason we're being punished is for Mechiras Yosef. But here's the problem. Ki nimkarnu ani va'ami lahashmed la'regul abed. We are being sold to be utterly destroyed. Ve'ilu la'avadim v'lishvachos nimkarnu. If we would be sold as slaves, that we could understand. That would be quid pro quo. That would be measure for measure. That would be midah keneged midah. We sold Yosef as a slave, so we're being sold as a slave. She's not offering free information. It's, so to speak, she's disclosing to Achashverosh a full understanding of exactly why this is ordained to the Jewish people. We sold Yosef, but realize, Achashverosh, I'm from Shaul, I'm from Binyamin. I wasn't part of this. Mordechai is from Binyamin. He's not part of this. We came to rescue the day. We came to save the day. We're the only ones who could do it. We got word from Moshe, who's connected to Yosef, that he's able to rectify this Avera. If we would be sold as slaves, I wouldn't be here today, because then we would be deserving of what's coming to us. Because we sold Yosef, le'eved nimkar Yosef, we deserve to be sold. However, because ki nimkarnu ani va'ami la'ashmed la'regul abed, that's why I'm begging for our life. This is not something that we deserve. Okay, that itself is worth the price of admission. To me, this is the best explanation for this mysterious pasuk in Megillas Esther. What does it mean? Ve'ilu la'avadim v'lishvachos nimkarnu hecharashi. If we would be sold as slaves, then I would be quiet. Mar v'raboisai. Let's come back to one more thing. What is Haman called in the Megillah? Besides Haman? What? Memuchan. Memuchan. What's the gematria of Memuchan? Mem, Vav, Ches, Nun. 160. Great. 156. Exactly. 156. Im hakoil. Im hakoila. Im hakoila. 156. Memuchan. Mem is 40. Mem is 40. Vav is 6. Chaf is 20. Nun is 50. In the back of the Sefer Choisam HaMelech, which is a collection of the Torah from the Chassam Sofer on the Megillah, there is a perush from Rabbi Fink called Goyral HaPurim, where he brings the reason why Haman is called Memuchan. Memuchan is a gematria of Yosef. It's a remez that it's because of Mechiras Yosef that this whole gezerah is happening. And therefore, the tikkun for that is Haman comes and he says, Yeshnai am echad mefuzar u'mefayrad bein ha'amim. That through sinas chinam, this gezerah is being reawakened. And therefore, Mordechai and Esther, they say, Leich kenois es kol ha-Yehudim. So, you can imagine, when Haman paid those shkalim to destroy the Jewish people, he's awakening the sin of Mechiras Yosef. And yet Chazal say that we preempt Haman. We preempt his purchase to destroy us by performing the mitzvah machzas hashekel. What's the reason for machzas hashekel? Now, here's the thing. Imagine if you were having a tzedakah campaign. Let's say you're making a charity campaign. Would you have everyone in the shul? Yeah, everyone in the shul give $50. Which genius came up with that scheme? Everyone should give $50. What's wrong with this guy? Everyone should give $1. Well, who came up? Everyone should give $50? Then you're going to have to do it again in 6 months. What's $50? You know, does that make sense? It does? No. You're collecting money for your shul. Why would you ask everyone to give $50? Give a whole dollar. Everyone give half an amount. No, that doesn't make any sense. So the Al Shech HaKadosh says, no, it's not the money that we want. The purpose of giving a machzas hashekel is to show unity in Klal Yisrael. That me without you, I'm a half a person. I'm incomplete without you. This is the way that the machzas hashekel was a tikkun for the sin of Mechiras Yosef and the gzera of Haman. The gzera of Haman was to reawaken the avera of Mechiras Yosef. So we preempt the collection of Haman through the mitzvah machzas hashekel. Machzas hashekel, the mitzvah machzas hashekel shows the unity of Klal Yisrael, but it gets much better. Who's the Baal HaMemra in Shas of why we start reading Parsha Shekalim, Rosh Chodesh, Adar? Who's the Baal HaMemra? Which Amoira? So number one. Take a look. Don't look at me. Look in the sheet. Reish Lakish. What's the reason for Machzas HaShekel? If you look in the Yerushalmi, we find a number of very interesting reasons. The Yerushalmi says, well, they violated the Aseres HaDibros, so everybody gives Asara Gera, which is a Machzas HaShekel. And some say other reasons. Then Reish Lakish says, anyone here ever do the mitzvah Pidyon Haben? You did? To who?
My grandchild.
So you didn't do it, your son did it. You mean you attended a Pidyon Haben?
I paid for it.
Oh, you paid for it. Okay.
Boy,
Yeah, good gesagt. Yehuda, you didn't do it.
I did it once.
But Sylvia Tada.
You accepted it. You're a Kohen, right?
Right. I officiated.
You officiated. Very good. Anyone ever mekayim on their son?
Yeah.
Pidyon Haben.
My oldest son.
On your oldest son. Not on your youngest son, you didn't do it? Just checking.
One and done.
One and done. Which Kohen did you use? Well, better question. You had a cup of wine for the ceremony?
From Georgia.
Semi-sweet.
Don't forget it. Should I get you the name?
After the share. 1 second, after the share. What's the reason for Pidyon Haben? What's the reason for the mitzvah Pidyon Haben? There are various reasons given. But if you look in the Yerushalmi brings the reason of Reish Lakish. The reason for the mitzvah Pidyon Haben is they sold Yosef HaTzadik, who's Bechar La'aviv. Therefore, we have to redeem our firstborn to be Masake in the sin of Mechiras Yosef. The Yerushalmi says the reason for Pidyon Haben is a tikkun from Mechiras Yosef. Who says that? Reish Lakish. Then the Yerushalmi brings the opinion. And what's the reason for Machzas HaShekel? Each one of the Shvatim accepted a coin for selling Yosef. And therefore, Machzas HaShekel is a tikkun for Mechiras Yosef. Who says that? I wish it would have been Reish Lakish. Reb Pinchas b'shem Reb Levi. So I was very upset because if it would have been Reish Lakish, I would have said, it comes out so beautiful. The Baal HaMemra, who says that we preempt Haman by collecting Machzas HaShekel, it's Reish Lakish because Haman's decree was to reawaken the sin of Mechiras Yosef, and it's Reish Lakish l'shitase who says the reason for Machzas HaShekel is a tikkun for Mechiras Yosef. So I couldn't go to sleep until I searched and I searched and I searched, and in fact in the Medrash Tanchuma, Reish Lakish says the reason for Machzas HaShekel is a tikkun for Mechiras Yosef. So it comes out, Oyoim V'noira, it's Reish Lakish l'shitase. Reish Lakish who holds the reason for Machzas HaShekel. It's a tikkun for Mechiras Yosef. The reason why every Jew gives a Machzas HaShekel, because every one of the Shvatim took a shekel or took a coin for selling Yosef, and that was the sin that Haman used to reawaken and to restir and to instigate on Klal Yisrael. Haman pointed out, Yeshnoi Amechad Mefuzar Mefayra. When Haman gave his Shekalim to Achashverosh, Haman said, they have no unity, and he reawakened the sin of Mechiras Yosef. So Reish Lakish says, in order to preempt the accusation of Haman, we read Parsha Shekalim, Rosh Chodesh Adar. This is Reish Lakish l'shitase, who says the reason for Machzas HaShekel is a tikkun for Mechiras Yosef. Wow. So even though you would have liked to hear this at 8:30, it was such a good shir, the Zman Min HaShamayim was not that you shouldn't be able to hear it until starting 9 o'clock tonight. Lakish is a shekel? Yeah, with a yud for a good measure as well. Yes. For the Yehudim. Okay, so that's Reish Lakish l'shitase, who says the reason for Machzas HaShekel is a tikkun from Mechiras Yosef. And Reish Lakish says, Galoi v'yadua l'fnei misha amar v'haya olam, that Haman was destined to reawaken the sin of Mechiras Yosef, and therefore we advance and we preempt the reading of Parsha Shekalim on already Rosh Chodesh Adar. And next week's shir is going to be so powerful that you won't be able to wait until Wednesday to hear it. Next week's shir is going to be Tuesday night at 8:30. Okay? Next week, 8:30. Be here or be square.
Send that a reminder again.
I should send that a reminder? This.
I didn't get one.
Everybody remember, the show will be tonight. Shkoyach. Have a good night, everyone.
They asked about Pidyon event.